It's time for CVM Live, the noon edition. Thanks for joining us. A special welcome to those of you online at cvmtv.com. I'm Michelle Thomas. The Jamaica Constabulary Force has announced that it's equipping its members with taser guns. The JTA shared that it's investing in less lethal weapons as part of its efforts to modernize the force and improve the safety of citizens. A photograph of the police with a taser gun attempting to disarm a man with a knife has been making the rounds on the internet, with members of the public welcoming the move. There have been consistent calls, including from the Independent Commission for Investigations, INDICOM, for the police to be armed with less lethal weapons to reduce incidences of police fatalities. 68. That's how many people have died on the road since the start of the year. The traffic crash update says vulnerable road users, that is, motorcyclists, pedal cyclists, pillions and pedestrians make up the majority of those killed. But with only 54 days into the new year, one road safety advocate questions the level of importance being placed on the phenomenon that accounts for at least one life daily. Jamaica News reports.
As of February 20, 68 people have died from car crashes, 14 pedestrians, 20 motorcyclists, 7 pedal cyclists, 10 private car drivers, 8 private car passengers, 5 commercial vehicle passengers, 1 commercial vehicle driver, and 3 pillions. Powell said the absence of stronger, sensible laws and the lack of enforcement of the existing laws is the reason behind the figures and the chaos seen in public transport. Last year, the police arrested few motorists with more than 1,000 traffic tickets. The drivers were fined and their licenses suspended for 3 years, the maximum under the law. But Powell says that is not enough.
You have 1,000, 1,200 infractions. Something is wrong.
Moreover, he says the system to obtain a driver's license is flawed. There have been allegations of corruption at the depots island-wide. It is being alleged that there are agents within the government who facilitate the sale of driver's license. Minister of Transport Robert Montague says the government is aware of the practice and is working to address it. Additionally, there are police officers who own buses on the road that reportedly go unchecked. And with Tax Administration of Jamaica reporting that they processed more than 42,000 learners' permit since the government's announcement of the road code test as of January 25, Powell fears that the issue of road safety is not being publicized enough. Before the announcement, the TAJ processed 8,800 learners' permit between January to October 2019.
If it was up to me, every single one of those people would have to come back in. A day inconvenience is it easier to put you through a day inconvenience than for now burden a already struggling health system when you go out there with no training and go kill yourself or kill somebody else or plow in a bus stop. Because I'm now going to have to pull a fireman where, so that little structure that's already a struggle as it is. I'm going to have to pull medical personnel, the police, all of these areas.
Jamaica Maitland for CVM Live.
The University Hospital of the West Indies has received a life-saving equipment valued at over $56,000 donated by the Guardian Group Foundation with funds raised from the 5K event in 2019. The handing over of the equipment took place at the hospital's John Homey ICUB classroom recently. Robian Williams has more.
The Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology at the University of the West Indies Hospital will benefit significantly from the donation of a laparoscopic tower. The vital equipment will be used in surgical diagnostic procedures to examine the organs inside the abdomen. Chairman of the Guardian Group Foundation, Gladstone Lewis, says it is a proud moment to be contributing to the health sector.
From the proceeds of the 2019 5K run, UHWI has received a laparoscopic tower valued, and my notes say $56,000. And I did a quick calculation. It is 8 million Jamaican dollars.
Director of the Intensive Unit Operating Theatre, David Walker, in welcoming the donation, says this is a great enabler in women's health.
The procurement of best-in-class and state-of-the-art equipment are the phenomenon that is driving healthcare across the world. And the purchase of this tower will enable the clinicians and other practitioners to better navigate gynae care to patients in a more effective and efficient way.
A member of the Obstetrics and Gynecology Department, Dr. Ian Bambury, sought to explain the usage of the equipment.
We have continued to do most of our operations through an open surgery. What minimal invasive surgery affords is for us to do these surgeries using pinholes. So whereas we don't have to no longer do an incision in the abdomen to take out the uterus or do other things, what this laparoscopic machine would afford us is to operate on these patients using just pinholes.
The equipment will reduce the admission time for patients in hospitals and increase productivity. Robianne Williams for CVM Live.
15 persons will benefit under the agricultural component of the government's socio-economic program for former employees of the Monimusk Sugar Factory in Clarendon. The project seeks to facilitate alternative employment for the displaced workers and their dependents following the closure of the facility in 2018.
5 former employees of the Monimusk Sugar Factory in Clarendon receiving parcels of land from the Minister of State in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, Floyd Green. These individuals are among a group of 15 displaced workers, also to benefit in the area of agriculture. The Sugar Company of Jamaica, SCJ, has provided 164 acres of prime agricultural lands on which they can now raise livestock and plant crops. Chief Executive Officer of Agri-Invest Corporation, AIC, Dr. Alexander Powell, says the lands are to be allocated on a phased basis.
Hard Trust NTA had the heavy task of interviewing 259 former employees, resulting in 15 indicating an interest in crop production. These 15 were further screened by Agri-Invest Corporation to determine acreages to be awarded, financial capability, and commitment to the project. Today, these 15 will receive allocations of various parcels of land.
The remaining 244 had interest in barbering, auto mechanics, hospitality, customer service, construction, plumbing, and tractor maintenance, among other areas. Dr. Powell is encouraging beneficiaries to read the contract document carefully as it details payment terms, date of lease, conditions for renewal of lease, among other information. Meanwhile, Floyd Green describes the changes to the sugar industry as necessary. He adds that cash grants of $40 million had been given to the displaced workers, who each received a one-time direct cash transfer of $155,000. However, he says,
but we realized that wouldn't be enough, and you would have heard. We recognized that what they needed was training and certification. So we put $45 million to work with the Hard Trust NTA for them to develop other things. We have training in crop production, we have training in barbering, we have training in entrepreneurship, agribusiness, and that training comes completely free.
In relation to Monimusk Sugar Factory, Green says an enterprise team has been established to assess how the factory can be a viable concern. The final report is expected at the end of March.
The government says it's committed to creating liquidity in the market so more Jamaicans can invest. Speaking at a listing ceremony at the Jamaica Stock Exchange, the Minister without Portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Daryl Vaz, is calling on more companies to come to market and to take advantage of equity capital. Jamila Maitland reports.
Minister Vaz is encouraging more private sector investment to generate the much-needed economic growth for the country. He lists the tax break for businesses that came into effect on April 1, 2019 as helping to free up resources for investments. The government abolished $14 billion worth of taxes.
These include the abolition of the minimum business tax, the asset tax for non-financial businesses, and the ad valorem stamp duty on the transfer of property and on financial transactions. In addition, the transfer tax applicable to transfers of real estate was reduced by 60%.
He lists the increased reports of initial public offerings as well as the oversubscription of the IPOs as evidence of the liquidity in the market. The minister says this is symbolic of the financial literacy that is developing in society and the desire for wealth creation and generation.
Private sector investments of this type is one of the major elements in generating the economic growth needed to create the wealth and prosperity which will enable not only a few, but many to enjoy.
Jamila Maitland for CVM Live.
In a series of health-related town hall meetings, the Ministry of Health and Wellness has announced some major improvements within the sector. Projects will include expansion of the operating theatres and the accident and emergency department at hospitals, among other things. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton recently addressed members of the public in St. Catherine and St. Anne. Robin Williams has more in this report.
The health minister says despite many perceptions that enough is not being done to tackle the dengue crisis in the country, the ministry has put measures in place that are expected to reduce the number of dengue cases.
The vector control program was under-resourced in equipment and in personnel. But frankly speaking, now that you have 7 brand new vehicles plus the older ones that you have 185 staff, 150 temporary, 35 permanent, and you have a national coverage of public education. We're giving out brochures, and we're appealing to the public to take control of your immediate surroundings.
With the risk of the global epidemic coronavirus, Tufton notes that the country has an excellent reputation of controlling external health threats, notwithstanding the fact that the virus is spreading rapidly.
We have restricted travel, and if people come in, they are subjected to quarantining, put them in a location for 14 days when the virus will take the show. It doesn't release them. Or if they show symptoms, we isolate them in hospital. And all our ports, sea and air, have medical personnel where we will monitor that.
Over in St. Anne, Minister Tufton assured residents that accessible health care is a priority for his ministry and the government at large.
St. Anne's Bay Hospital is due for a major overhaul. And give me another 3 to 5 months, and I'm going to come back here, not here, but maybe down in the town, and we're going to unveil the new plan for the new look St. Anne's Bay Hospital. More beds, more operating theatres, more waiting areas for patients, more doctors and nurses, because the facility, while it does well, has not kept up pace with the population expansion.
Also on that expansion list are the Maypen Hospital and the Spanish Town Hospital. Dr. Tufton notes that his ministry will have to do better when it comes on to the community health centres.
We're going to have to improve the amenities. We're going to have to make sure that the infrastructure, the buildings that they are in, are appropriate to provide service. We're going to have to ensure that they have the blood pressure machine, the